Let me get my turbo speed sensor. There is my turbo speed sensor. Working on my little car today. I have a turbo on the floorboards of my car. That's not where that goes. Hey, here's some fans. Here's a fan. It's in my trunk. Okay, well, we found the other one then. I'm trying to find my turbo speed sensor. Do you know where it's at? All right. Well, what's up, guys? I got a whole 3 in here now, so I'm working on my RS. She's dirty as shit. She's been outside a lot, been in the shop a lot, just sitting there working on a turbo kit. Oh, look, a mission mode radiator. There we go. That's how I feel about those fucking things. Hey, Bradley. What's up, James? What? Some other radiator? This one? It's good for cleaning your shoes off, really. So, like, when you step on it, right, the dirt falls down off of your shoes onto the floor. And if you do that, it keeps your floor cleaner.
You gotta do a little scuff, too.
Yeah, I did a little scuff. So, that's what the only thing those things are good for. We should put those at the entrance of, like, every golf club and everything else, too, to clean your spikes off.
Dude, we should see if that guy will give us that one. We'll make it our mat.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, make it a fucking mat. It'd be great. Boot cleaner, exactly. So anyways, we're working on a new turbo kit. And you can see that turbo is really low down there. It's really low. Really, really low. And there's some reasons behind that. One of them is what Lane keeps flipping shit about, because it's a VA intercooler, top mount. It fits. Tons of room. It's actually low on that side too, because it's not a touch thing, but lots and lots of room. Rotate this a little more, whoop, go into it for people that want to do a smaller turbo on this kit instead of a big one.
3550 or 660.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
G25, anything.
Or
G30.
25 too.
Yeah, it would be great. The G25, 550 or 660 on a car with no cams. The G30 if the car's got cams, something like that, would be good. And the ST intercooler, you get an intercooler, just it has plenty of flow. Just the heat capacity is the issue on something that's going to run a long time at high power. So, but my air water intercooler is going to fit here as well. And what I really want to do is I want to have the scoop be somewhat functional, but you can't have it wide open blowing into the engine bay, because then that pressurizes the engine bay. And if the engine bay is pressurized, then your radiator doesn't have as good of a pressure differential from the front of the car, which has positive pressure pushing air, to the back of the radiator, which is what forces air through it. If I have the scoop sucking air in here and pressurizing this engine bay, because I don't have, say, something blocking it, then something, not bigger blocking it, then it'll pressurize the engine bay. So the top mount intercoolers in the factory, they have that lip around them, right? That seal that seals into the hood. That's to keep the high pressure zone on this side of it and not pressurize the engine bay, so the radiator still works. A lot of guys will go front mount, take the top mount out, and have just an open scoop, don't block it off, and then they lose cooling performance, not just of the radiator, but also their intercooler. So it's a good idea to get a block off plate, but then you don't have any flow over the turbo to cool that area down. So I like to have a partial block off plate. There's a little vent in there to allow some air to flow in and blow air over the exhaust and keep that part of the firewall cool. So ideally what I want to do this one is redesign the air water again and put it offset to the right more. I'm going to have it diagonally over here and have it come into this part here, have the blow-off valve or bypass valve section come down here, and have the core at a bit of an angle and off to the side, and leave an open enough area here that I can create either a panel filter or a cone filter that comes up, and then have that sealed off to the scoop so I can draw in air from the outside, boop, right in the panel filter, right in the turbo. Then I have to have anything coming in here, sucking the heat off the exhaust. I have to try and get something in here, sucking water in, or have this big, long, tortuous path. So let's see if I can get this is low enough. I'm pretty certain I can get a nice, smooth bend out of this. Maybe even just a 180 and let the filter, cone filter this way, and then to create a little box for it, or have it go up to like the BMW style panel with the 90-degree inlet, something like that. So we'll fuck with it and see what we can do. But I'd like to offer a solution where the intercooler's here, the air inlet's here, and I have to put like a water drain or something, a deflector to keep water from getting sucked right into the bad, right, when it's raining. So I have to engineer that part. And you look at factory air boxes, and they always have, the snorkels coming in, and then inside they have a baffle or something, and then a drain on the bottom so water can come in, go down, not get carried over into the filter and all of that. So we do something similar to that. But then that kind of leaves you in this realm, like if I make this top mount air water intercooler and I make it for the air filter over here on the cars that don't do that, because it's going to fit stock location turbos, then they have this big gap here. And so I was trying to figure out what I want to do with that gap. And so, my AOS is going over here, so the AOS can go there. If I do the intercooler over here and have a big gap like that, I can bring the AOS in some. Instead of having it way in the back, I can bring it in some off the side a bit, and then it drains easier into the drains. Or I have my remote oil filter set up and thermostat that I haven't made yet, but I've got it basically. I'm at the point now where I just pay the dudes for tooling, and then they'll cast the housings for it, and then I can start doing that. I haven't done that yet because the finances are tough when you're making 8 different products at once, and FedEx is costing you $100,000 and fucking up your orders. So it's definitely slowed down progress on things, but I got to get my car running. So we're here today doing that. We finished the up pipe today. That's not where the wastegate goes. That's just sitting in there because we were testing different areas to fit it, and then I got it stuck in there. So I can't get it out right now. It's actually going to go off of the up pipe there, and come back and see behind the turbo over here. The cool thing is that the down pipe on this, you can see part of it. Let me get a flashlight. There we go. Portable handheld illumination device. Right here. There we go. All right. So, this is too bright. It's adjustable. No, but I got this other one here. There we go. That's better. All right, so if you look back here, you can see there's a downpipe. Now this downpipe, it's not a cheated bend. You look at like the ETS ones or other brand downpipes on their turbo kits, and it's a super sharp 90, sometimes even a cheated 90. What that means is that the cut that it's welded to isn't tangential to the flow path of the pipe. Now, if that doesn't make any sense to you, then let me grab a piece of pipe. So here's a pipe, and I make this 90-degree turn. We'll do it away from the welder so you can hear me. All right, so here's the pipe. I'll do a 90-degree turn, and that's what I have. But say I want to bring it closer. If I cut into it, right, I can now get it like this. So this flange is the flange of whatever turbo I'm doing. Now I have this really tight 90 off the turbo, but if you look, it's cut at this angle, so immediately it's a different direction, okay? So this is not tangential. And what that means is that if I was to follow the line off of this at any point, whatever direction it's facing at that point in the curve, and have a straight line come off of it, that'd be tangent to it, right? So right now, if I weld on something square here, the flow path is tangential and perpendicular to the mounting surface. If I cheat it, as it's called, cheating it, you cut it and now it's not. So the gas doesn't enter the pipe smooth tangent and then curve in. Instead, it enters at an angle, hits a wall, and immediately starts turning. A lot of the aftermarket downpipes have a cheated 90 on there, or greater than 90 even, and or just a really, really tight 90. And a tight 90 is not great for flow, especially when I'm trying to have air expand from the turbine wheel into a volume and utilize that space effectively and efficiently. So ours here, back there, is actually a very long 90, which means it's a slow 90 degrees. It's got a large radius, so it's a large radius 90. It's not cheated or anything. And see if I can, I'll spin the car up, different shot. Now Lane's working on my radiator. I saw some messages come in. I'll answer them in just a second. I'm going to scroll back some. Do you stream in 2 days? Who is this man? Yeah, I used to stream a lot, right? But it's just things have been crazy through this holiday season. I took a lot of time off, spend time with the wife and family and that kind of stuff. So, junior cooler. I just installed block-off plates and just keep my GR like 2 minutes ago. Perfect. As we call it, that means you'll have better cooling. Keep the turbo cooler, kind of like how they have air diverters on the Nuremberg. There's turbo. Block-off mash too high. Drawback cooler temperature 20 degrees on hot days at high speeds. Yep. Absolutely. The manifold that's on there right now is just a 2-liter WRX manifold that I bought brand new back in 2008, I think. Maybe 7. Let's see, can you see this? And it comes out of the turbo a ways. Nice long radius downpipe there. So we're not going to have any issues with turbulence or poor expansion leaving the turbocharger. It's going to have a nice flow path. And I really like that. I don't like the short 90s. I don't like the hard turns right out of the turbo. I mean, the gas is very hot. Leaving the turbo has the most volume. As it moves down the pipe, it's going to lose volume, right? Because it's going to cool off. But if it's going to be the most voluminous, I want the pipe to be as big and the bends to be as smooth as possible during that area. So there's the end of that waste key that I stuck in there. I got stuck. That's actually kind of like what it's going to look like, though, really, with the pipe coming out of the up pipe there. It's going to come out through that spot, and the waste kit's going to be right here. So I'll be able to change springs on it easily if I need to, and then the discharge will come down and blend back in the downpipe. So I'll have it recirc back in the downpipe. I don't need to be atmospheric. I need a boot on this guy. I need a rack. My rack actually makes noise. It's the original rack. It's how rusty my fucking wetland sway bar is. But this is an old original one where they had all the problems, all the rusting and shit going on. A lot of room in here on the up pipe. This is an NVIDIA header. It's actually Josh's header I'm using for mock-up right now. Unfortunately, this header and this oil pan don't get along. They meet very intimately up here at the top. So I got to either make a different header, buy a different header, or have Lane cut this oil pan and redo it. But it's currently stuck to the bottom of the engine, and no fucking way I want to deal with that. I don't want to take the engine out again, just change the oil pan. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I'm going to figure that out. Now, the turbo being this low does pose some challenges when it comes to the turbo drain into the head. Now, luckily, it is still higher than the drain on the back of the head, but not by a lot. It's not a lot higher. So we've been brainstorming other ideas, and some of them custom and some of them easy, so that if I want to just make another one of these kits, it's the next... Whoever buys it can easily install it. Right? No one wants to buy a turbo kit that fits like shit or requires an absolute metric ass whack of custom work to make fit. So I'm trying to brainstorm an effective and efficient way of getting oil out of the turbo. So I'm slow in the car right now. POV camera. I gotta take a leap. Get a little POV with that. I'm just kidding. All right. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. This is my expansion tank. I don't know if anyone's seen this before. It's my Gigantimist expansion tank. Had Garrus build it for me. It's really cool. Just one error that he made in it. This one here is too high. It should be down here. It's still from here, but there's still more volume than the factory one holds. But I wanted a lot of volume above this lower nipple. And it has more than stock, but I wanted the whole volume. This thing holds like a half gallon. Pretty good size expansion tank. I like it. More cooling volume, more stability, more steam void or vapor void area if that's what needed, all that kind of stuff. I cannot wait to detail this engine bay. It's bad. Really bad. Oh, my head's crooked. Spencer won't like my video. Fix my hat. Nope, still not crooked. Still crooked. There we go. There we go. Whew, that was close. And if it's off, Spencer reminds me all the time that anything I say is completely invalid. Let's go see what he's doing on my radiator. I'll tell you about that. But the coil radiator, relatively thick coil rad. I like the beam. So we're doing two things with it. I have that coil radiator. It's an NA radiator, so it doesn't have the bung on it for the expansion tank. You know, it's the factory radiator. There's a hose that goes from the expansion tank, top of the radiator, and that's for steam. That's for vapor to leave the top of the radiator and get to that reservoir up and out of the way, so steam pockets don't reduce the flow through the radiator and reduce the effective area of the radiator. So we got to put a nipple on it. That radiator had a cap on it, and I liked the radiators with caps on them, but unfortunately that radiator was too tall and the cap would hit the hood. So we cut the cap off, sealed the hole. So we're going to add a bung to it. Cap's removed, we're just going to seal the hole, and then I got to get fans on it. But before I do that, we're going to do another thing. We're going to make it a triple pass radiator. Ideally, I'd make it a dual pass, but because the inlet's on top, the outlet's on bottom, you can't do a dual. You got to do three. Hey, you made a stream. Pretty close to the beginning. Welcome. Someone just said hi in the chat. So I want to make it a triple pass radiator. There's a couple benefits to that. One of them is that you use more of the effective radiator. When you have the big ass end tanks, you tend to have areas of high velocity and areas of low velocity and areas of almost no velocity. And that's more so when you have big square end tanks that might stay pretty big and not squish down a bunch to increase velocity as the flow changes through there. So by making it a triple pass, we also minimize those low flow areas. Now I have to push the same volume through a smaller cross section. So that means the speed's going to go up. So the total time in the radiator is going to be about the same because I have the same volume traveling through the radiator. However, in the end, what really happens is I really get more time. I get more time for heat transfer because I've utilized more of the radiator. There is an increase in differential pressure across the radiator by doing this. Whether or not that will be significant enough to negate the gains that I get by actually using more of the radiator has yet to be seen. But I've always wanted to do it, so I'm doing it. And I just want to be able to utilize all of the radiator across the whole thing. So again, what happens when I reduce the available cross section for flow? Velocity goes up. Now, typically, if you remember my heat transfer video, I talk about time, I talk about surface area, and delta T. So what am I affecting in that with the heat transfer to the radiator by doing this? Well, None of it. Seems weird. None of it. If anything, I increase the area. I can increase the surface area. Yeah, delta T, that's the difference in temperature. So I can technically, if I'm increasing the area by utilizing more of the Michi step, by utilizing more of the radiator that's being used anyways in the normal configuration, but technically I've increased the area. Now, the increase in velocity reduces time. But what I did do, however, is, well, it would seem to reduce time, but I increased the travel length. So now the travel length is 3 times. So it becomes a wash. I get the same amount of time because for the higher volume, that's a longer distance instead of or a higher speed for a longer distance or a slower speed for a shorter distance. So I get the same overall heat transfer if the radiator was being 100% utilized in the stock configuration, and I did this and it's kept being 100% utilized, then I had the same heat transfer, negating any difference in pressure drop from having it pass 3 times through it. So I would lose nothing. But since now I'm utilizing more of the radiator that's available more effectively, then in theory I gain area in it. So we'll see. We'll see how it works. Okay, I am your spiritual guide. Come, walk with me on this journey. Let's look deep inside. Yes, we're gonna look deep inside you. So drop them. Oh wait, that's not what you meant. What's up?
I got that
Ooh,
as
good.
close to factory as I can. It's a little wavy, but that's
good.
where they soldered it.
That's good. You can't even tell there was a hole there that you welded in. Unless you look really over here and then you go, fuck Lane, screwed
Yep.
it all
And
up.
you're like, oh god. So
That's good.
where?
Where do I want the bone?
Yes.
Well, let's set a fan in there and make sure that
So
the shroud's not going to be in the way.
we can go off the top of this.
No.
And come off the top of this.
No.
And come off the side of it.
Side, if there's a 90.
I don't have a 90. Well, I mean, I have this little one, but I don't know if that's enough.
It is.
Where are we going to?
This one right here.
Perfect. Working.
Technically, it's enough. Yeah.
I mean, all it's doing is bleeding air, so just
Yeah,
put
it's
that
just
right in
just
the
steam
corner.
and shit. Yep.
So I was thinking about I have some 3/8 or some 1/2 inch round rod. Gonna weld just a little stanchion off there and then drill a hole through it and then tap the 3/8 rather than try to tap the
Sure.
little shit. So it'll be out maybe a little.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'd rather have a bung on it anyways than try and tap into the side of the radiator. I might have an aluminum 8-inch amputee bung at home.
This one's replaceable.
What's that?
This one.
Well, it's not a bung. I meant the bung for screwing into.
Oh, I'll just make one in 2 seconds.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cool.
So basically just come off all the way as high as I can get off there.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, because this thing's still like 2/3 height. So
Yeah, I mean, you can even go middle. I'm fine with that, somewhere. The top third. The top third would be good. Yeah, somewhere like that. Probably a little higher than that.
I'd like to catch one of the horizontal surfaces.
What do you
Just
mean?
because this stuff is so thin.
Oh,
If you try to
sure.
screw this in, it's going to want to.
Right, bend and
While
like,
we're
right.
around.
That's fine. So let's just try to get higher here then.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm
This-
saying. So
this
it's
foot.
covered.
What do you mean?
The tube is like shrouds it a little bit. If you think it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah, whatever. That's fine. Yeah. And when you drill it, you can hit the tube and go meow if you
Yeah, I
wanted
could
to.
actually drill the tube.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah. So pull this out. Let's show them where you at the choke pass.
Let's go back to the bench.
To the bench. To the bench, wench. All right, so flow path through this radiator, upper hose normally fills this upper plenum, flows downward out to here.
Well, it fills this one.
Well, no, it's single pass. It's single pass, right? So single pass, we get this. But what does it really do? Like, I mean, it does. It's going to have higher velocities, in between, something along these lines, and they do shrink this down to try and increase velocity through this area, but you can see it's just one flat size. There's no taper to it or anything. And then this is also just one straight size on here. So the flow distribution isn't going to be as good as it could be if this was a tapered end tank or whatever. So what do? Well, we're going to cut this thing right here. So we're going to cut it like that. And we're going to insert it in the aluminum plate, and then we're going to weld that plate in like this. And that's going to block off this end tank from here to here. And then we're going to do it again over here. And do the same thing. We cut it, and you see how between these two rows here, you slide a plate in, and then weld it all around again. So what's that going to do? It's going to make this coolant come in here, stop, travel this way, and come down this way, stop, and travel this way, and go this way, and then into the engine. So that'll be the trip pass radiator. We should see pretty large temperature gradients. High temps here, low temps here. It'll be really interesting to see how much that gradient is through the radiator. I'm going to heat probe the shit out of it and infrared gun it and see what kind of things happen. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be effective. All right, I saw some messages coming in. Let me answer those real quick. Let's see. Back up some. Anton says 1050. No, that's the G35 900. I didn't want the 1050. I want the 900. Delta 2. Yep. Random question. What is phantom knock? What is phantom knock? And your friend has it on his Power MSD ECU. What does so typically phantom knock is knock that's not real, right? It's something that isn't really happening. It's the knock sensor picking up noise of some sort. Aaron, hey Kenneth, hey Aaron, thanks for joining. You're late, all right? Just kidding. So phantom knock would be knock that the ECU picks up for some reason that the tuner or someone has decided, whether he verified it or not, is not real, not actual knock. So let's just go back into that a little bit. What would cause that in the first place? Well, what does a knock sensor do? A knock sensor is strictly just the knock sensor is just a piezoelectric microphone bolted to the block. That's it. It's a crystal with a weight on top of it, bolted to the block. And noise, or vibrations actually, make the crystal get squeezed a little bit. And when the piezoelectric crystal gets put under tension, voltage comes out. It's a really neat phenomenon that they figured out. And so they use this microphone to listen to engine noise and then transfer the voltage to the ECU to say, hey, I heard some shit. Now, the problem is engines are noisy. Engines are very noisy. The valves being the noisiest. You ever put headers on a V8 before and you hear the exhaust note change? You get that ticking sound, that header tick. What you're hearing with header tick is the exhaust valves closing. A lot of people don't realize that. They think you're hearing like combustion or, it's got an exhaust leak or something. You're actually hearing the exhaust valves close and impact the head. And since the headers are so thin, that sound resonates in the tube and you can hear it. That's one of the reasons factory intake or exhaust manifolds are like this thick and cast. They're really thick and they're cast so that they block out that sound. You don't hear the exhaust valves closing. Now, that exhaust valve tick is pretty much as loud, sometimes louder, than knock or detonation in the engine. So why doesn't the knock sensor just pick up valve events all the time and tell the engine or the ECU the engine is knocking? Well, it does. So what they had to do is, for a knock sensor system to work correctly, you have to do two things. You have to tune it. You got to figure out what the knock frequency is going to be in the engine. And that's a function of the bore of the engine, since the noise that travels is based on the speed of a wave moving across the cylinder and resonate inside the board. So a bigger board is going to have a lower frequency, a smaller board is going to have a higher frequency. So you got to tune it to the right frequency and hope that the size of your valves and everything creates a slightly different frequency. Well, unfortunately, that noise is resonating in the cylinder as well. So you start to get this overlap between valve noise and detonation being the same frequency and near the same amplitude as well. So then what? How do I dictate, if I have this sensor, all it does is know there's noise, here's some voltage. So what I have to do is I have to apply a window, a detection window or a knock window based on what what software you're using, what they want to call it. But that window is just a period in crankshaft degrees. What's that?
It's a new color.
Yeah, but what fender is that?
Oh, my car?
Oh, you pulled the fender off it?
Just one of the bypass ones.
That's cool. Do you like it?
I do. I think green's awesome.
I like green. I miss my legacy that was that color. So you got to do a window, which is just a